And now we wait.
No, the other one. You can see the how. So I'm facing this to so I'm concerned that I'm not getting fed on the screen. So it's like changing the position of the computer so that I just like I'm facing this way. So you want to put it right here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's mine. Crush it. How many people registered?
to unmute. Good morning, everyone.
I see names. I know we're on pause right now. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yay. So Lily, we're just waiting for everyone to gather.
Yeah, I think we'll just give just a few more minutes in case anybody's having some technical problems.
Sure.
And then we'll go ahead and get started. If I've unmuted some of you, I'm trying to unmute the rest, but if you'd like to talk, just hit that raise your hand button and I can unmute your microphone. Or you can send me a message in the chat box. You'll see that icon on the bottom of your screen there. There we go.
Great.
Good morning, Jessica.
We encourage audience participation.
Yes, please.
Because it's no fun talking to myself. Can you all say where your name and what organization you're with?
I'm Kate Schreiner from Open Lands.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Andrea Brewster and I work at iMentor Chicago.
I'm sorry. Hi, Andrea. And what was that?
I work at iMentor Chicago.
For Chicago. Okay, I'm not sure if I know of that organization, but yay. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Stacy Craig from Avenues of Independence.
Hi, Stacy.
I'm Ashley Casiello from the Gary Comer Youth Center.
Oh, hi, Ashley. Good morning.
Good morning.
I feel like I should do the waiting music.
Well, I'll go ahead and get started with my some housekeeping while we're waiting on our last few attendees to join. Welcome to Becoming a Higher Functioning You with Mission-Driven Leadership. My name is Lily Blauen. I am the Regional Coordinator with Forefront, broadcasting out of our office in Monmouth, Illinois. If you're new to Forefront, we are a statewide association that represents both grant makers and nonprofits throughout Illinois. And our mission is to build a vibrant social impact sector for all the people of Illinois. And we do that by providing education, advocacy, research, and by mobilizing our members around campaigns that advance the sector. Just a couple of things. Throughout the webinar, we'll generally default to muting your microphones in case there's background noise. We do welcome your questions, so please locate, if you haven't already, the raise your hand function, which will let me know that you'd like to talk and I can unmute that microphone for you, or the chat box down at the bottom of your screen. if you click on that, you'll be able to see our full conversation going on here. Jessica, I just saw your note. I think that I did unmute you, so give that a try. So you can type any questions throughout there, raise your hand, so on and so forth. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to use that chat box function. And lastly, we are recording this webinar. We'll share a link with you afterwards in case you'd like to review it. And for those of you that come in late, we'll make sure that you're able to see the full presentation. We are really excited to welcome, I'm really excited to welcome our presenter today, Jacki Davidoff, Principal and Senior Consultant at Davidoff Mission Driven Strategy, a longtime Forefront member. Davidoff's process offers organization a thorough understanding of themselves and the environment in which they operate, and recently have been privileged to bring their strategic thinking and planning skills to many local, regional, and national foundations and nonprofits that represent diverse sectors, including public health, education, the environment, transportation. We are delighted to have Jacki with us today and are looking forward to putting that strategic thinking and planning to work for all of you. So I will pass it off to Jacki. Take it away.
Thanks, Lily. And hello and welcome, everyone. We're delighted to be with you this morning. And, you know, as Lily mentioned, this is really designed to be an interactive workshop to the extent that one can be interactive on a webinar. It's really an aspect of being a higher functioning you. It is to engage and to take risks, to speak up and to go into the unknown and to discover something about yourself that you may not have gone in knowing before. So I really encourage you to, we'll have some opportunities to share just any point, you know, put up your little chat button to speak. The more that you engage and the more that you take risks and speak up, the more that you will get out of this hour. So to start, you know, you've come here because you're saying in some way that you want to develop a higher functioning you. So, you know, I'd like you to think about, we're going to pause and take that in, a higher functioning you. So one aspect of being a higher functioning you is being aware of the you that you are now and at any moment. So a lot of this is a self-awareness game, which is like a muscle that you can continue to strengthen, to be attuned to yourself, your emotions, you know, where you are leading or where you are holding back. So I want you to encourage you even through this webinar to be attuning to yourself and noticing yourself. So that's sort of a baseline skill of a higher functioning you. So this webinar is really an opportunity for you to consider that you have the capacity to develop yourself toward what your potential is. And the concept is really understanding that that is undiscovered. So you are, should you choose to be in it, in a continual process of discovering your potential, discovering your capacities, and your job, your work, you know, at your nonprofit or foundation or any organization, even your, you know, your role in your family as someone who is dating in your community, you have continual opportunities to step into discovering yourself as a higher functioning you. So I want this to be a really broad conversation where we're going to be continually challenging yourself to think in different ways. You are, you know, we're all used to, like, this is who I am. I'm Jacki. I'm done growing. And our curriculum is taking that, turning it on its end and really challenging you to say, no, I'm not done. I am choosing to be someone who grows and learns and develops myself toward my potential. And in this webinar, you're going to be learning tools and concepts to help you do that.
because we only know what we know, right? You know yourself as you are now. But the neuroscience demonstrates that we have the capacity to continually learn and grow well into our 80s. And your role as a mission driver in your organization really, invites you to do that, to be in this game of continually learning and growing and discovering what your capacities are beyond anything that you know yourself as. And what's on the other side of that is that we are all creatures of habit. And we like, much as we may think otherwise, we like to be safe, we like to be comfortable, and we don't like to take risks to get out of our comfort zone. And so I want you to know that as much as you are going to actively choose to learn and grow, you also are fighting up against your brain, which wants you to stay the same. And it's going to come up with all these crafty strategies to resist taking risks and to, ways that you will limit yourself and make up, like, well, I shouldn't say that. Someone might have a reaction. So we're here to say it, because that's how you discover your capacity. Okay, so with that, I think that's a good framework. And what I'd like to do now is find out from you what you came here looking for. So we've skipped over a little bit. Let's just go back 2 seconds to show you, just for a grounding. This is a little bit about me in terms of my work in leadership development, our company's work in consulting, coaching, and training nationally. And I have a master's in transformational leadership and coaching, which is really my own continual learning and growing and discovering my capacities. And then we'll share a little bit about some of the organizations that Davidoff works with, all kinds of foundations and nonprofits across sector. So now I want to hear from you. What did you come here looking for? What was intriguing about becoming a higher function in you? What outcomes are you looking for? What are you observing about yourselves that you see could be different? Come on.
Hi, this is Kate Schreiner from Open Lands again. I think that, as you mentioned, we're always able to continue learning and growing, and I was intrigued by the title of this and thought that I'd give it a shot because, we can always add value to ourselves and therefore the teams we work with.
Mm-hmm. Is there something, if I can use you as an awesome volunteer you have just, chosen to take a risk and to, be open to discovering more about yourself. Is there something in particular that you identify, Kate, that you're like, I see, I would like to be better at, contributing to my team. I would like to have more impact when I speak. I would like to feel that people are really listening to me, or I know I take on too much responsibility and I want to be someone who pushes that down into my team. What sorts of things come to mind?
Absolutely. So the one thing that comes to mind first is sometimes when I receive news I don't love, I could work on tempering my reaction to undesirable things is one thing, and just ensuring that I have I typically like to have the full picture before I add comments to anything. So I think those two things of just being able to move conversations forward and while gaining information versus not speaking it up at all.
That's great. I think one of the themes that, you've spoken to that we'll talk more about is like being willing to be in the unknown, and not perhaps for those of us who are perfectionists, having everything figured out before you speak and take a risk. Maybe you don't, you realize I don't even have all the information that I could have, and I'm going to choose to go forward.
Yeah.
That's what I got. That's great. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Ashley. I'm a young professional, and so I'm kind of at the beginning of my career. And I was attracted to this webinar because I'm at a place where I am trying to think kind of long-term ahead about how to plan my career forward. And in terms of things that I'm aware of that I know I want to work on, are definitely asserting myself, kind of figuring out ways to do that and kind of shake off some of that imposter syndrome feeling that I'm getting a lot, just about my position and my, competency in a nonprofit space as a young professional in general. And then also I know I'm kind of a more introverted person, and so I'm interested in strengthening my ability to kind of network and put myself out there.
That's awesome. So, what I'm hearing is, Ashley, that you are, looking to discover that, what I want for you is to create a vision of yourself as like, even though I may be the youngest person in the room and, fairly new to this role, I have a lot to contribute, and I'm going to take the risk to trust that. And when I have voices in my head that I'm aware of that say, well, but maybe, or you shouldn't, or you don't have, I will choose to step forward and to speak, in an authoritative way and be receptive to how people respond. But it's through that I'm going to learn and grow. So that's great. So it's this is also part of this is being aware of all those voices we all have that say, well, you really shouldn't, or what if people say, or I don't feel, and to know that that is you staying the same. And that is you, choosing to stand put and stay with what's safe and known instead of moving into the discomfort and excitement of like, I think I have something to say and I'm going to say it. So that's great. So thanks both of you for sharing. So, one of the concepts that we're going to be talking with is, and I've mentioned this before, is potential. So I am a student of my own potential, and our culture at Davidoff is really about that we are a learning culture, and we have agreed with each other to support each other, to have more, have expectations of each other. So a big piece of that is that recognizing that leadership is a continual journey and it's an inside out job. So, part of your leadership can be that you're creating a culture and an environment in your organization where you decide we want to have a learning culture, and I want to be part of leading that charge by modeling it myself. So now we're going to talk about how to do that, which is we're going to start with this concept of principles. So, at Davidoff, we talk a lot about principles, and I know a lot of people, it's kind of a heavy word, and a lot of people don't really know what it means. But this is a key aspect of you becoming a higher functioning you, so that you have a point of orientation. So as you see here, principles are fundamental behaviors or values of an organization, a team, or what we're really talking about here is an individual. So for our organization, we have principles that we've aligned to of excellence, urgency, and accountability. So when we are working together as a team, we are continually asking ourselves and each other, are you working with these principles, excellence, urgency, and accountability? And it's not to say we're always going to be here, but can you imagine that as in your work, you would be orienting and acting differently if you had clear principles that you orient to. So other principles that you'll see here are responsibility, engagement, which we've talked about, integrity, customer or client focus, workability, empowerment, and transparency. So if you are orienting to principles, can you see that you're providing a road, like a roadmap for yourself to go down in terms of how you make decisions, how you spend your time, even your way of being? So I'm wondering, in terms of when you think about your own orientation as a leader, and maybe you haven't thought about this, but think about it now. What principles are you attracted to for yourself to orient yourself in your leadership? Another opportunity to take a risk.
This is Andrea.
Sure.
The two that stand out to me on the screen, the first is excellence. I know that it's something that I always strive for, especially in a professional setting. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to exceed and sometimes over exceed, but also empowerment. When I think about, the reason why I'm here is because I've been in the non-sector profit for almost 10 years now, and I've never managed an employee under me. So I'm looking to learn skills to take me forward in, my growth and things like that. And when I think about why I'm here and the managers that I've had in the past, I think about empowerment and how that's been a really big driver in my work. It's always been very encouraging to have managers that empower you and encourage you to want to strive and be better.
Great. So you could see that, and I think we all can see if you're orienting toward empowerment, you're going to be, with your team in a way that you're going to be attuned to other people and what can you do to have them feel like you're the wind beneath their wings or that you have their back.
Yes.
So I can see that starts to shift a culture. Okay, great. So we're going to keep moving here. So a concept that we're going to be talking about is that when you are in the game of being someone who is continually learning and growing, you are going to thrive. You are going to be living your life as an adventure in a way that other people who aren't even in these kinds of conversations with themselves will not. So when we say people and teams thrive when they are engaged in the game of learning and growing, we want you to hold this, that every choice you make, every moment in some fashion, you have the choice to step into the unknown to discover what your capacities are, or you can say, no, I don't want to take that risk. And you can make either choice, and you'll make some days you'll make choices to, take risks. And then other times you'll decide, no, I'm not going to. But the point is to be aware that you have that choice. For instance, when I'm on the board of Chicago Women in Philanthropy, and there was a conversation going on in the room, and I was aware I want to say something here that relates to our mission. And I was aware of my thought, which was that, I don't know if I should say this. I'm not sure how people are going to respond to me. And I consciously thought, you know what, I'm going to say this because I want to be learning and growing. And if I don't say it, I'm not going to learn and grow. And I'm also, I've done this enough to know if I don't say what I think would be something that I want to say, I usually leave and I feel dissatisfied. So I want to encourage you to be increasingly aware of your choice to step into your capacity or to play it safe. And choose what is, in many cases for me, I say, what's the more alive choice? It's to say what I have to say and see what happens and step forward. So there's something called the transformational imperative, which is kind of a big phrase, but what it means is that neuroscience research demonstrates that our brains are continually learning and growing. And this happens, as I said, well into our 80s. So while, many of us think, as we said that before, like, oh, well, this is who I am. That's actually not true. And when you choose to be someone who learns and grows, you are actually shifting your neuroplasticity, and you are shifting your the connections in your brain, like literally physically, so that you're changing your neural pathways, and you are literally becoming someone different. And that's the perspective that I want you all to have. Should you choose to be someone who is in this game of learning and growing, you will become someone different than you are now. And that's our job as human beings, in my belief. There's an educator, Jack Mesereau, who said that childhood is your formation, right? And adulthood is your transformation. So I have more fun in life because I have chosen to be on the path of learning and growing and discovering my capacities. And the more that I do this, the more that I contribute to our team, the more that I contribute to our organization and our mission and our capacity to serve our clients. So do you see that it's a progressive chain? You learning and growing contributes to your organization, to your team, to your mission, and really to the world. So now we're going to start to go into some of the elements of becoming a higher functioning you. Okay, so here we go. The first one is self-reflection and self-confrontation. So we gave you a little bit of taste of this when we were talking earlier about self-awareness. So, the question here on the table is, do you explore and confront your own strengths and gaps? So what I mean by this is, are you someone who, as many of us feel, I have to walk around showing the world that I have it together, that I have my together, and that it's not okay to let people know that there are times I feel insecure, that I have gaps, that I have aspects of myself that I know I want to work on. So the invitation here is to the people who are mission drivers, people who are self-confronting leaders, are willing to just say, you know what, I got strengths and I got gaps. And as a mission driver, you're going to be more effective at your work if you just honestly say, like, I'm part of humanity. There are things that I'm good at and things that I'm not good at. And I'm going to celebrate the things that I'm strong at, and the things that I'm not so strong at, I'm going to work on. I'm going to develop in myself. So I want to ask you to ask yourselves, what is one gap in your leadership that you want to acknowledge to yourself that you want to work on? And if anyone has something that's coming to mind, let's hear it, because chances are other people have their version of this. Another opportunity to take a risk. Okay, I will take a risk. So, because this is really important, and this is an area where so many of us feel like it's not okay to, acknowledge that we have gaps. So I want you to think about this to yourself. What is one area where you have a leadership gap? Okay, for me, I love people. I'm great at being curious and getting to know people. My planning skills are not great. So I am working on, as my team knows, I am working on taking on, I'm going to take on assignments to develop my planning skills. So like, for instance, the night before I look at my calendar, not all the time, because I got gaps here, and I say, okay, what do I need to do to prepare for the next day? So that's just one example. A lot of times we hear that our nonprofit leaders talk about that they aren't doing a great job about building their relationships with their boards or people who are newer to the field. They're not good at building one-on-one relationships with others on their team. So I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but you know, that's something that we work on, an assignment way of living. So I would encourage you to think about, we'll have some work time on this. You know, what is a gap that you want to acknowledge in yourself? What is an assignment that you can take on to do that? So for instance, it could be, oh, okay, I know I'm kind of shy and I'm not great at getting to know people on my team. I am going to plan once a week to go to coffee or go to lunch with someone on my team to get to know them and to be curious. So having an assignment that provides you some structure is a great way to move forward on addressing whatever your gap is. In the absence of having a structured assignment to work on, chances are you'll probably not do anything to address it and you'll stay the same. But someone who is a higher functioning you is going to say, oh, I want to work on this. This is something I can learn to develop in myself. I'm going to give myself an assignment, and I'm also going to tell somebody what, you know, provide accountability for what I said I would do. And then I'm going to check in with them every week and say, hey, guess what? I did what I said I was going to do. I had coffee with somebody, or say, I didn't do it, and here's my plan to get back on track.
Do you see Jessica also?
No, is there someone who? Oh, awesome. So we have someone who has something to share.
Yes, so we've got a couple people having some audio problems.
Oh,
Let me see. Jessica, is it working now? Okay, so I'll read it out here. Jessica Houston says, one gap for me is that I can be so focused on the mission at hand that I miss the offerings of others on the team or around the table. It sometimes discounts the talent on the team. Stacy,
okay.
go ahead.
Will you read that again, because we've been adjusting our video here, and I was focused on that, and I want to hear the question again.
No problem. So it's one gap for, this is Jessica Houston, one gap for me is that I can be so focused on the mission at hand that I miss the offerings of others on the team or around the table. It sometimes discounts the talent on the team.
Okay, that's great. I don't think you're alone in this, Jessica, and you know, I think that you're noticing that in yourself, number one, which is awesome. And you know, there's something called the Lasada ratio that you may have heard of, that we study in our study of what creates high-performing teams. And the Lasada ratio is the number of, there's a couple different dimensions, but one of them is when you're in a meeting, listen for how many people are advocating for their own idea versus being curious to learn about other people's idea. And I know for me, I resonate with this because, you know, I have a need to, as we all do, to be seen and heard, which is great. It's like, yeah, that's great. However, sometimes I can be too focused on, you know, wanting to be seen and heard and not trusting that I will actually be more effective by being curious and listening to other people's ideas and contributing to them, and trusting that as a team we will get further when I and everybody is curious and listening to what other people have to say. And that again is creating a learning culture in an organization where, you know, you can notice in yourself, oh, I want to say my idea, I want to promote my idea, and choose to say, okay, I'm going to make a decision here that's fine. It's great, but I'm going to be curious and listen to what other people have to say. So is that helpful?
We're waiting for her reply there. We've also had another one come in. Erlyn Alexander, having some trouble with her audio.
Oh.
Jessica says, yes, that was great. I've taken notes on this too. Erlyn says, my gap is being able to better communicate my thoughts effectively. Another gap is trusting others to delegate work tasks.
Okay, so this is great. So this is another leadership skill. And I talk a lot about this in my leadership coaching with especially women, executive directors and others, is that we tend to feel like we have to do it all ourselves. And, you know, there's a quality of empowering others and being willing to be in the anxiety of not doing it yourself that is really critical. And it's also about empowering your team. I think, I can't remember who talked about, maybe it was Ashley earlier, about empowering others. So this is it's a really important leadership skill to know that I'm not doing anyone any favors by keeping all the responsibility to myself. I'm not allowing others to learn and grow. And so I think the more that you recognize that as a leader, part of this could be a principle that you orient to, is I'm about empowering others. So I need to like contain my anxiety and, you know, pass that along to someone else and say, I'm here if you need me. And basically what it does is creates teams and cultures where people have an expectation that we have each other's backs and we trust each other and we don't need to do everything ourselves, and we empower each other to take on more responsibility. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, so we're going to keep going here. Let's see. And are you all able to still see me in the webinar? Because I'm not seeing myself and I'm just not sure. Okay, great. All right, good. So here's another one. This is an awesome one. Continuous self-improvement. So we've talked a little bit about this, but just even knowing this term is very helpful. So are you committed to continuously looking for ways to improve yourself and the systems in which you operate? So people who are higher functioning are always looking for, in my organization, what is not working well and what am I going to do about it? So continuous self-improvement implies that by your orienting to what can I do to make our organization work better and take responsibility for it, that I am someone who contributes to the whole rather than just being focused on my little part. And a lot of what we see when we're doing consulting with organizations there's a lot of silos, there's a lot of people being territorial, and in that there's a lot of drama. Like, this is mine, I don't want to share, and drama really kills mission. So as someone orienting to self-improvement and improvement of your organization, you're going to be continually scanning for what's not helping us be as effective as we can be, and what am I going to do about it? Even if it just means raising it to everyone else. Hey, I've been noticing this, and I'd like to talk about what we can do about it. Okay, great. So we are now going to move to our next concept. Oh, we have I want to actually go back to this. So this is really cool. So this is part of being a self-confronting leader, someone who's reflective, someone who's actively growing, is you reflect on yourself. I want you to think back to whatever that gap you mentioned earlier was, and identify what is one next step you will take to improve your leadership in that area. So I hope you all have this. And literally, I would write it down if you can, even if it's in your phone, because we are none of us are trustworthy to make these kinds of changes. We need to do extra things to ensure that we're going to be accountable, because these are all steps into the unknown. So what's one thing you're going to do, and who is one person that you can ask to support you? Who is one person, a colleague, a spouse, whomever, someone on your board? Who are you going to ask for support? Someone who may be a more knowledgeable other, someone who's good at this thing, and what will you ask for? So this is an ongoing skill that you build when you notice that you have something that you're working on, to take on assignments, and to ask other people for support, and to be held accountable for that. That's how people learn and grow. That is a quality of a self-confronting leader and someone who is choosing to learn and grow. Nobody knows how to do this ourselves. We all need each other. We're not born knowing everything that we need to know. So we're now going to talk about a fixed versus a growth mindset. This is key. So some of you may have been, heard about what is a fixed versus a growth mindset. So I'm going to summarize this, and you can look more carefully at these slides following. So a fixed mindset is someone who says, I want the A, I want the pat on the head. I don't want to take on anything that I don't know I'm good at, because I don't want to fail, and I don't want to make mistakes, and I'm scared to make mistakes. Totally get it. I am a recovering fixed mindset person myself. However, can you imagine that if you stay in that zone, you're not going to be learning and growing? So I want to encourage you to consider the aspects of having a growth mindset. The game with people who have growth mindsets is that the win is learning and growing. So taking on things that you don't know how to do now, that's awesome. You are going to learn and grow by taking that on. You may fail. Cool. Oh, great. Okay, so what can I learn from that? The only important question with a growth mindset is, what can I learn? What can I learn? And the more that you learn, the more that you're going to be growing and developing yourself as a higher functioning you. So the game is taking on things that you don't know how to do, observing, learning, getting feedback, and doing the next thing. So we're going to give you an assignment now. One way to cultivate a growth mindset, as you'll see here, is to think about a time when you did not take a risk. So it could be you didn't speak up in a meeting. It could be you didn't say something to your executive director or to your board chair. We all have this. We all have times when we didn't take a risk. We chose not to have a growth mindset. It's normal. You're going to keep doing this. It's not like you're not going to do this. But I want you to think about that time. Go back to that time. Oh, okay, I didn't speak up in that meeting. And imagine what you would do next time. This is such a critical skill, because we all have times, many times throughout the day, when we observe, oh, dang it, I didn't say that thing. That's fine. We're all going to do it. But the point is to go back, be willing to go back, to be in the discomfort of, okay, I didn't do it. Oh, okay, how would I do that next time? We are champions of the do-over. You can do this by doing this in your mind. What would I do next time? When you're in that situation again, you have vastly increased your chances that you will choose to next time speak up. So with this, it would be going over in your mind, picturing that meeting. Okay, I didn't say what I would say. Okay, what will I do next time? Picture yourself in that room or sitting across from that person. Okay, next time I might say, for instance, you know what? I'm nervous to say this, but I think this is really important. And you speak into it. Or you turn to, you go to somebody that you feel safe with, a colleague, and you say, can you help me sort this through so that when I'm in the meeting, I can say this in a way that people can hear me. That is really important. Oh, sorry about this. Okay, that's a new thing. Okay, so we're going to go back to the webinar. So I hope everyone has an example of that. This is such an important skill. So the next skill that we're going to be talking about is embracing anxiety. So this is one of my favorite topics. So the concept of anxiety has a really bad rap in our culture. So when you think of anxiety, most of us think, oh, that's bad. That must mean that something's wrong. If I feel anxious, I should not do that thing. And people who are higher functioning, developing themselves as higher functioning, choose to acknowledge the anxiety and get that discomfort and fear that you feel, maybe even excitement. That actually means that you are seeing a possibility for yourself that you wouldn't have chosen before. You're seeing a possibility for change. You're seeing a possibility of saying something that you might not have said before. You're seeing a possibility of discovering something in yourself that you before may have just dismissed. And so anxiety is a great sign. It's a super positive sign that means, oh, I am learning and growing. I see the anxiety, I feel the anxiety, and I'm going to choose to say that thing in that meeting. So I really want you all to get that moving into anxiety versus turning away from anxiety. That is the quality of a higher functioning you. Okay, so awesome. So we're reframing anxiety, and I want you to do an assignment here where you think about where at work are you avoiding anxiety? It may be saying something to someone that you have conflict with and you've been avoiding talking about what you might, a perspective that you might disagree with, or I see another way to do this and I want to talk about it. So think about an instance where you are avoiding anxiety. Maybe you're thinking, maybe I'm going to do this wrong. Maybe they're going to get mad at me. Maybe they're going to be hurt. All those things are possible, but by avoiding anxiety, you are not giving yourself the chance to discover and develop the skills to be a mission-driven leader who directly addresses conflicts or things that you're nervous about. So we want you to identify an area where you've been ignoring something and make a decision, I think, to, oh, okay, I'm gonna address that. And you can say there's plenty of techniques you can use. Hey, I've been nervous to talk to you about this, but this is something that I think is important. I'd like to share where I am and hear where you are. Okay, cool. So, personal responsibility. This is another aspect of being a self-confronting leader. Are you someone who creates satisfaction, someone who takes responsibility for yourself, for your satisfaction wherever you go? So a lot of times what we find in our consulting and coaching is that people are more invested in complaining and blaming other people instead of saying, in this meeting, in this moment, in this conversation, I'm going to be satisfied. I'm going to take responsibility to be satisfied. I'm going to take a risk. This is a really key skill of your ability to develop yourself as a higher functioning you. So can you see that if you are in an organization where people take responsibility, rather than what you're seeing on the screen now, which is blame, shame, and justification. Oh, well, I didn't get that done on time because I just couldn't find the resources, or, you know, it was this other person's fault. They didn't give me the information on time. So that's blame, that's justification, or you can just go to shame and just blame yourself or feel shame. I mean, we're all in this. It's not to say that you'll never go here, but the point is, oh, okay, I have a situation, I'm not satisfied here, and I'm gonna take responsibility for getting resolution. I'm gonna set up a meeting with this person. I'm gonna talk to our team about, this isn't working. This is a problem. I don't feel good about how we're treating our clients, or whatever it is, or how we're working together as a team. So people who are working on becoming higher functioning them take responsibility. That, again, you're moving into anxiety, you're learning and growing, you're discovering how to do stuff that maybe you didn't do before. So that's great. Okay, so we are framing this all within the context of you being a mission driver who contributes to the culture and the performance of your team. So this is you being a mission-driven leader who contributes to creating higher outcomes and creating a culture where people learn and grow and take risks. So I want to actually, before I talk, share about this, I'd like to hear, what are people getting from this? What are you seeing for yourself? What are some possibilities you're seeing now? It's really important to digest and take this to, okay, I'm thinking about this. This is an insight I've had. We've got a few minutes. So does anyone have an insight about themselves that they'd like to share? What's that?
She just unmuted.
Okay, great. We'll give a couple more minutes, because I'm really, really eager to hear this. This is also a skill of somebody who's a higher functioning you, is that you reflect, what did I learn? What did I take from that?
This is Lily. I've just generally unmuted everyone, so if you want to chime in, please do so. If you aren't being heard, type your responses in the chat box and I'll read them out loud for you.
Great. Are we getting any, Lily, or should I keep going?
I'm not seeing any yet. Oh, we've got one. Jessica Houston. I appreciate the idea of embracing anxiety and challenging myself when I avoid it.
That is awesome. Thank you, Jessica. We all have work to do around reinterpreting anxiety. It rocks. Anxiety is such a great indicator of like, I see potential for change. I see a possibility for myself. Great. I feel anxious. Awesome. That's great. Move forward. Choose aliveness. Okay, so in the last couple minutes, I want to give a couple resources for you all. And we like to stay in touch. It really means a lot to me. This is part of my mission, is to support people in the philanthropic sector in particular to really see you've got so much more capacity to include. So as part of that, you can send me an email, and this is also on our website, davidoffstrategy.com. We have a mission-driven versus mission-challenged organizational assessment. So this is a way for you to really answer it's a self-assessment. Look at your own organization, look at your culture, and look at where are you mission-driven and where are you mission-challenged. And you can fill this out, and then we can set up a call to talk about, what did you learn? What are we seeing? What are areas that you can you know, that are mission driven that you can move and accentuate, and where areas of mission challenge that you want to work on as an organization. So that's one thing. And then the next thing is that I'm offering to all you folks a 15-minute mission driver executive leadership coaching. So we can, you know, some of these I would love to hear your thoughts about, okay, what about this really resonates with me, and what I want to take on as a next step for myself. So I am happy to have anyone reach out to me. And I really, as I said, we really love to stay in touch and support people. This is part of our mission at Davidoff Strategy, is to create a world of mission-driven people and mission-driven organizations, because our world needs that from you and from your organization. So with that, thank you so much for participating, and keep in touch, like I say. Lily, any final thoughts from you? Yeah, my colleague doing is like, be in the anxiety.
Oh gosh, I just realized my microphone was muted.
Got it.
No, I was just saying that I just wanted to thank you for sharing your work and challenging us all to be more curious and to discover that undiscovered potential. It's been great. And for those of you in the webinar, thanks for working through some of the audio problems and for sharing your thoughts. We'll be sending this webinar in an email. So if you want to come back to it, see if you can learn something new or reflect on it later, you'll have that opportunity.
That's great. Thank you. And I also add, we have a blog on our website about 8 ways to live a mission driver life, and also a blog around being a self-confronting leader, which I think people will really resonate with. So please feel welcome to take a look at those 2 blogs. All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been great to be with you. Please reach out. Like I said, we'd love to hear from you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
You're gone.